Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannon's, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, Pace Farm, and Hero Hoists.
If there is one make that is a blast from the past, in my opinion, it would have to be the mighty Datsun. See how one model made a fantastic roadster on this week's Classic Restos. Now, to some, when we think Datsun, perhaps the square model 1600 or even the humble 180B may spring to mind. But in 1964 to 1970 here in Australia, this car provided a very cool alternative from the traditional Australian-made cars in the small car category.
Welcome to the Datsun Sports, the Roadster, or referred to as the Fairlady. These well-balanced, stylish machines were produced by Nissan throughout the 1960s. In late 1962, the Datsun Fairlady, the SP310, was introduced to the world market, named for the famous musical film of the same name. It arrived in Australia mid-1963. There had been some earlier model roadsters manufactured by Nissan, but the all-new model was the first serious attempt to export and compete with the predominantly British sports car market. As you know, the Japanese engineers and designers were fantastic copiers. They were renowned for making something vanilla into a masterpiece. Look what they transformed from a pushrod Austin A40 to an alloy head, overhead cam success story. This nifty two-door series preceded the Z-Car, or what we knew later as the Datsun 240 and 260Z. The Fairlady line was a strong competitor to the European MG, Triumph, Fiat and Alfa Romeo sports cars. But with the Datsun, they always had one feature over many others: reliability and simplicity. Everyone knows that a Datsun in most cases will run for a very long time, and when the Datsun 2000 came about, featuring its 1982cc engine, even more rice was needed to be passed through the firewall to feed the lively overhead cam engine featuring dual SU side draft carbs. This was good. In fact, it was so good, it attracted the likes of Paul Newman to start his racing career in one. Team this with a 5-speed transmission, and you had the recipe for more fun than sitting around a rice paper-walled steam bath in Osaka with a pint of sake. Indeed, Nissan made a statement when this little sports car came around. Nissan was now in the fun department, and everyone was invited.
These Datsuns, a lot of fun to drive. I mean, they're very fast. They're good for high-speed cornering. I drive lots of modern cars, but they don't do it like a Datsun. I'll tell you, they're high revving. They corner extremely well. They're also economical. Great cars to drive. I started off saving for an MG, and my mate had one, and I ended up buying his car off him, and that's how I got involved with the Datsuns. And this is my third Datsun, this one. This is the SR311, which is the U20 engine, unique. It's got, there's only made 15,000 of them worldwide. You won't find this motor in any other car. This car, I heard about it, and I went out and had a look at it, and it was up on props, no front suspension on it. I looked at the floor, it was pretty good, so I thought, then he showed me the carburetors, so I thought, this will be good. I dragged it home. It only had 3 wheels on it, so we're dragging it out, and it fell down on the concrete. My brother snapped a photo of it, and there it is, crippled, looking on the ground. We took it home, started working on it. It took about 12 years. I had already had another Datsun, so I wasn't in any hurry, and it was going to be a quick fix. And then when we pulled the engine apart, it wasn't going to be a quick fix. Whoever had Whoever did the work got the cam work wrong, everything was just wrong. So I sent it out to get it sandblasted, lost interest, picked up interest, so it sat for a number of years, and then finally I started assembling, and after the 12th year I got to drive it. What we're doing all the time is we're finding ways to get better performance out of them, better power, better economy, better driving. So it's got springs from a Volvo, it's got tailor-made front suspension, it's got what we call Lewsteins, Bilsteins, which are tailor-made for this car. So it was taken out. The car was weighed on all corners. The suspension is unbelievable. So when you do drive this car, you will not believe it's a 50-year-old car. That's one thing. And the carburetor system on this car is like fuel injection. The feeling this car gives me when you get in it, it's a snap, crackle and pop. It crackles from the moment you hit the accelerator, you drive it, you decelerate it, it crackles like, I mean, they try and do that with modern cars, but it's not the same. As grown up as kids, we'd always pick out the cars. You talk about the straight 8 Buicks, every car there was. And it was, my mum was an aircraft mechanic during the war, so, and we had bike shops, push bikes, and everything was mechanical. So I grew up always, nothing was broken. It was bring it here, let's have a look, we'll fix it. So I've got that mindset and I just fix everything. Nothing's ever broken unless it's really broken. But then you never throw anything away. You bring it back in and have a look at it and revisit. But I get a buzz out of actually getting things working right and then driving them. I love being here. I love being part of this. My Datsun will be with me to the end. I've already given instructions to my partner that it's not to go to a museum, but I will always have it and cherish it. I'm never going to sell this car. I just love it. I mean, well, I don't know of any car, and I get to sell and drive lots of new cars quite often, and it doesn't do it for me like these cars. You know, they're fantastic, just really, really good.
We've always had a few cars. They're all special. The T-Bird.
Oh, that's mine.
The Combi for when we want to get away. The XR8.
It's going to be a classic.
They're all insured with Shannons,
We've also got Shannon's Home and Contents cover.
which helps protect our automotive collectibles, tools and memorabilia in the home and garage. If you're motoring enthusiasts like us, it's got to be.
Shannon's.
Shannon's, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
If you have a restoration project, Hare and Forbes has the tools that you need. Shrinker stretchers, dollies, mallets, bead rollers, profile gauges, professional panel restoration kits, and so much more. Now I warn you, enter at your own risk because you will end up buying something. So come along to your Cap City store or browse and buy online at machineryhouse.com.au because Hare and Forbes has the range. What a lovely place. Wangaratta, here for the 2019 Datsun Roadster Nationals. How are you, Jonathan?
Really well, thanks, Fletch, and it's good to be here and great to have you here too.
Thank you very much. I wanted to be here because these cars, I think they're a great little car. They really are. Not only that, to see, what, around 50? Did you make the numbers?
I think we're up to 47, and we had a couple that people had to pull out at the last minute. We were actually hoping at one stage for 60, but however, we've only ever done it once, and that was back in Geelong about 10 years ago.
Fantastic. Now, being the Nationals as well, obviously some distances have been travelled.
Oh yes, we've got people who've come from Queensland and from, we've got 4 cars from Tassie. And we do this every year. And the main 3 clubs are Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria. Yeah. And we each take it in turns of hosting it. Yeah. And it's our turn this year. We were in Echuca last time. And we get all over. And so often you're driving good distances, to Coolangatta and Caloundra.
And we have that Japanese reliability to get you there more times than most.
Yep. They really are, and I guess that's one of the things about these cars. They changed the scene when they came out. I mean, 64 was the first one, 1500, and they got better each year and really did what the British did, but just did it so much better.
I just think that the alloy head overhead cam engine that the Japanese developed was probably one of the mightiest 4 cylinders ever.
Absolutely. I remember, you remember the 510, the 1600 sedan. I remember my dad having one of those and saying, these what they have in Mercedes, and here I can get one in a Japanese car and it's this price. And so they really changed the whole scene, and they go like stink. I mean, the first, when it got to the 2000, in 1967, they brought out this 2000 engine, having had a 1500 and a 1600, and it went like stink. And you got all these things. You got a heater, you got a radio, you got 4 ram tubes came with it as well, and a 5-speed gearbox, and a top speed of 124 miles an hour.
How many are left in Australia of these cars? Because every one of them must be on a register.
Well, we haven't quite got to that stage yet. We're getting better. The word has it there's probably about 600 in Australia, but on the road. But we don't actually know, and the numbers are. They keep on turning up, which is great. And as people are recognising what a good car they are, which have now, they've actually, it used to be a case where MG drivers would look down on them, and now we have a case where they've actually, in terms of value, they've exceeded the MGB.
That's another thing about these clubs that I think I have the utmost admiration for. Even if you don't have a car, but you have an interest in the marque, you're welcome to join the club. And that goes for pretty well every car club, which I think is tremendous, because how cool is that? You don't have one of these cars, but you love them. You've got pictures of them up on your wall or maybe in your garage, or want one of these Datsuns. Join the club. Yes. And it's almost, creating an affirmation that one may come your way.
Yep, that's right. And I guess there's that sort of collegiality in a club like this, where there's so much passion about it. And what I love it is that people come from all walks of life, so many different jobs, but the love of these cars. And we get together with these people from the Nationals from all over Australia once a year, and we greet each other like long-lost friends. We never talk in between, perhaps, but it's great to catch up with everybody.
It's almost like the perfect next-door neighbour, isn't it? All right. On that note, now to try and catch up with yourself or be a part of your club, obviously the social media pages, Jonathan?
Yes, the Facebook pages for Datsun Sports and Datsun Sports Roadster Clubs, and also on the website, the Victorian one. I don't know actually, but if you put in Datsun Sports Roadster, I'm sure you'll pick up each of the sites for each of the clubs in each state.
Yeah. Once upon a time, we might have had to put post office box down the bottom of the screen and phone numbers. Those days are gone. It's all social media now. All the car clubs are easy to find. Jonathan, it's been wonderful catching up with you, my friend.
Thank you very much, Fletch. It's been good to have you, and I hope you've enjoyed your drive.
I have. It's been well worth it. Great cars. Keep up the great work. Thank you.
Okay, good on you. Thanks, Fletch. Bye-bye.
And if you have anything to do with a classic bike, a classic car or a classic truck club, see that it's listed with the Shannons Club for all the world to see. For more information, visit shannons.com.au.
Time for Simon now on today's show. How are you, mate?
I'm well. How are you, Fletch?
Wonderful.
Bit cold, but we're getting over it. Not necessarily the right car for weather the way it is today, but you endure.
It's amazing the temperatures. Wasn't that long ago. Everybody's sweating to death, the heat. And now here we are, people getting around in parkas. Unbelievable.
Well, as you would have it, we have the Nationals that nearly always rain. We thought we'd come to Wangaratta. We thought we'd come in end of March when it's been stinking hot and a drought. Yep. You name it, it's the clouds and it's going to rain. But, well, it's all fun.
There you go. Simon, year model we've got behind us here.
Okay, it's a 1964. It's the first model that was widely introduced into the country. 62, 63, there might have been a few snuck through, but this is the one that was first sold in 64.
Know much about the history, like who first owned the car?
That I don't know. All I can tell you about is recent history. It came off the road in 1983, sat in a garage for 30 years, waiting to get restored, never happened, and I rescued the car about 3 years ago and got it going 2 years ago and love it.
See there? These are the cars everybody wants. I know I've said this before, it's becoming a bit of a cliche. The car in the shed for 30 years, where are they? That's what we're always. That's our quest, isn't it?
It is, and it was just sheer dumb luck that I got it. And whatever the guy wanted for it, I paid him for it. And it's here and it's going.
Now, Simon, tell me how rare this is. You've got a third seat in this car, facing out the other side. Now, what's the deal with that seat?
Well, I'm not really sure.
You just didn't bolt that in before you drove here this weekend,
no,
did you?
Absolutely. No, it's in the car from standard from day one. I have no idea why Nissan decided to put that third seat in. It's only 3/4 of the size. I make the story up that, in Japan there's you're not allowed for couples to go out without a chaperone, and that's to put grandma in and bring her along. But
Keep an eye on things.
absolutely, but the seat itself is not that practical for the driver behind them. So a lot of them just ended up at the tip. So I had to make mine from scratch, and there you have it.
Simon, thank you very much for turning up to the Nationals. It's been a pleasure interviewing you on today's show, mate.
Fletch, thank you very much.
I spend a lot of time out here. The RT Charger's the real deal. An E49. Remember A-Charger? I've always got projects on the go, so Shannon's laid-up cover helps protect my restorations. I'm Mopar through and through. It's a passion Shannon's understands. I wouldn't insure my cars and bikes with anyone else.
Shannon's, insurance for motoring enthusiasts. Call 13 46 46 for a quote.
How would you like to double your garage space and work on your cars easily? Well, bring in your own hero with a Lift King hoist. Easy to install models in 1, 2 and 4 post styles. Check the very nifty Spider 2500 portable mini scissor lift. Hero hoists are either Oz certified or carry the Euro CE, your guarantee of quality construction and reliability. I regularly stand under my Lift King, so when you need a bit of a lift, why don't you go stand under yours? What is there not to love about these Datsuns? The opportunity came along. I was invited to go to the Roadster Nationals at Wangaratta for 2019, and I couldn't say no. I hadn't actually filmed these cars before as an episode, and it gave me so much pleasure to turn up and see these little cars gather in a paddock, and the people were just so happy and so excited about their brand of car. When you think of Datsun traditionally, well, I know myself, you might think of the square box model 1600, or maybe a friend of the family years ago with a Datsun 180B. These were great family cars, and they used to hang in there for a lot of years. But these Roadsters, they're something really special. And it's also the type of car that you do forget about. And it's not until a Nationals event like this comes around, it makes you realise how good these smaller Japanese cars were back in the time. 1961 to 1970, well, these cars obviously preceded the Z car, and we know how good they were. The 1500 Roadster in 1964 had 77 horsepower, which works out around 57 kilowatts. In 1966, the 1600 Roadster was, the ante was up to 95 horsepower, around 72 kilowatts. And then by the time 1967 rolled around, with the 2-litre engine using the U20 single overhead cam engine, that was producing 135 horsepower, equating to just over 100 kilowatts. So when you do a comparison with a larger Australian-made domestic car, take a 1979 XD Falcon with a 4.1-litre iron head crossflow 6-cylinder car, they were around 98 kilowatts at the time, although they had more torque, of course. But it just makes you realise 100 kilowatts in a car like this 9 years prior, put that little 5-speed gearbox, wow, what a great little package. What I love about the Japanese engineers and manufacturing plants is they're always fantastic copiers. Now, anybody can copy, but the Japanese used to copy and perfect. Well, look what they did with the Austin A40 engine, for example. Made this alloy head 4-cylinder overhead cam engine that was reliable, virtually indestructible. They took the lines from other car manufacturers and did it very, very well. Have a look at a 1965 Aston Martin DB5. Tell me that there aren't some lines from that in these Roadsters. I love their little hip line over the back and 3 lights down each side, poking out in that really cool fashion with their chrome bezels. I think they're a really slick car. And you can see how a car like this made its debut back in 1961 at the Tokyo Motor Show. And the timing then was fantastic too, because that was several months before the rollout of the MGB.
Time for Angela now. Hello.
Hi Fletch, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Very well.
Now here we have a 1965 car. All these years have rolled on, all the decades. It's unrestored. It's still original in so many ways. Good car to drive?
Fantastic car to drive. Love it. Yep.
It's again another testament for, well, the Japanese reliability, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. Yes, they just keep going and going. So, yeah.
How many stories have we heard, or even back in the 70s, with families that have had a Datsun for their second car, used to run the kids to school, and the ones that I can remember, those families seem to have those Datsuns for like forever.
Yeah, my first car was a Datsun. I had a Datsun 510 was my first, and well, it's like a virus. Once you've had one, you never get rid of it. You just love them.
I guess it is all about fun as well. And on the Australian market, we were fairly limited back in those times when it came to a two-door Roadster as to what to buy.
Yeah, there weren't a lot of choices. It was the Datsun Roadster or an MG or the other vehicles around, the Triumphs and things.
Exactly.
But,
And we look at today's market with brand new cars, it's like every manufacturer almost makes one.
Exactly. But yeah, they're just great fun. So nothing like their classic cars.
Absolutely. Now, this particular car, have you got any plans for it, Angela? Are you going to leave it the way we see it now?
Well, I would like to unmatte finish her, but
Yes.
eventually we'll get there. So at the moment, looking at getting it resprayed and we'll get there.
Angela, thank you very much for turning up to the 2019 Datsun Roadster Nationals. Well done.
Thanks, Fletch. It was great.
Hey, Lou, how you doing?
I'm very good. And you, Fletch?
Good, mate. Good. This is a pretty special car. Tell us why.
Well, it's three-way from the end of the production. It was made in 1970, and they were making Zs at the same time. As
So third last car made.
last one ever exported by Nissan Motor Company, or Datsun Holdings at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, certainly the last of the run.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, not a silly question. Were they a perfected car by then, like even better?
Yes, they had improvements to the mounting of the fuel tanks at the back, recirculating ball steering box, odds and ends. And what never made sense was they knew they were going to stop making them, and they kept on doing revisions right up until the very end. 5 away from the end, they changed the wiring loom again.
Because these are fascinating cars, because what I've learnt from speaking to different people here today is that they went through from 64 to 70 with really overall not a lot of change.
No. It was a constant evolution where they kept changing things and going, how can we improve it? And I think at the time, Nissan Motor Company was run by engineers, not accountants, and you can certainly tell.
Oh, look, that just goes for so many others as well. And you're right, Lou. Boy, can't you tell? Cars had shape, they had class, style, sophistication. It was an era where you wore your car. It depicted the type of job that you did. It was so much of an integral part of our daily lifestyle, wasn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. Back in the day, they were probably seen as a bit of an underdog compared to British cars, but you only have to drive one and you'll make up your mind, just like you'd found out this morning.
They're an incredible car to drive. And again, it's there's other cars you drive too where you have to continually remind yourself that the thing might be over half a century old. And that is becoming hard to grasp.
Absolutely. They don't have to make many excuses for their age, that they're 50 plus years old. They cruise comfortably, you can cruise all day.
Good things indeed. Now, you're also good on twirling the spanners on these things. Now, we know of some of the advantages of these engines, but to you personally, these overhead cam Datsun engines, tell us the strong points in your mind.
Like I said earlier, Nissan was run by engineers at the time, and 50 years on, you look at the inside of one of these engines and it's just mind-boggling. The strength, the way they were made, the attention to the detail. And basically, 50 years on, all that we've done is we've made them lighter, we've made them smarter, and we haven't changed that much. And we're probably getting 30 to 60 horsepower more than what they were rated at. And they're so flexible and they don't use a lot of fuel.
Driving dynamics from, say, 64 to 70 in these Fairlady type cars, changes, advancements there?
The main area is suspension, Alistair Davies. Shock absorber Guru. Shock absorbers mainly single leaf at the back, harder front coils, and it takes 30 years off the age of the car. They're just so comfortable, like you found out earlier.
Yeah. They were certainly the platform preceding the Z cars, and boy, how good were they?
Yes, absolutely true. But once the Zs came out, these were well and truly overshadowed, and I don't think it's fair. A good one of these will easily keep up with the Z, and that's no joke.
Good on you, Lou. Look, it's lovely catching up with you. For a guy that didn't want to have an interview about 3 hours ago, you you certainly shot that philosophy to the woods, mate.
I build the cars, the rest is a bonus.
Good on you, Lou. Nice to catch up, mate. Thank you. Well, how cool are these little Datsuns? And you've seen just some of the 2019 Datsun Roadster Nationals on this week's episode of Classic Restos. Until next week, no matter where you're watching the show from, please ride and drive safe. I'm Fletch, and I thank you very much for watching. You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ClassicRestosTV and watch catch-up episodes at shannons.com.au. Classic Restos is proudly brought to you by Shannons, insurance for motoring enthusiasts, Hare and Forbes Machinery House, Pace Farm, and Hero Hoists.